This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate is the world's biggest coffee lover because we love all the ways you enjoy. Wait. Coffee Mate can't love coffee more than me. I'm a foodie. I went to Kyoto just for a nitro matcha latte. What? Oh, I have to finish the ad. Coffee Mate, for the love of coffee.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast Minisode number 628. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Thanks for being here. Before we jump in, I wanted to tell you, if you haven't already gone over to look at the info page for the Daring Way retreat, AndreaOwen.com/retreat. It's all the information for that particular retreat that I offer every once in a while. I haven't done it in a minute. It's been a few years, but I want to do one in the new year. So if you go over to that page and you like what you read, sign up for the early notification list. And that way you're going to be the first to know when I open registration. This is the Brene Brown work that I've been trained and certified in for about 10 years now. Yeah, it's been a solid 10 years. So AndreaOwen.com/retreat is over there. I really want to get a good solid feel how many of you are interested in it to see if it's something that I should do. All right, that's out of the way. Originally, I was going to rebroadcast one of the more popular minisodes because I've been just under some pressure with some deadlines here. However, I posted on Instagram earlier this week on Monday, and it's a reel that I made a few weeks ago. And when I made it, I didn't realize that September was National Suicide Prevention Month. And so I held on to it partly because I was like, oh my God, I want to put this out there. It's really vulnerable. I didn't feel that too much. But then when I realized that, this month is what it is, I posted it. I just posted it a few hours ago as I'm recording this. And in it, I'm only, Instagram has a limit. I'm only able to talk for 90 seconds. So very limited. I got in as much as I could in those 90 seconds, but I wanted to come over here and release a specific podcast around it. And so here's the story. To give you a little bit of history, anxiety has been my friend for many, many years, probably my whole life, but an official diagnosis came in my mid or late 20s. And depression, on the other hand, has really not been something that I have ever struggled with. My dad was someone who struggled immensely with both anxiety and depression. I would say pretty equally. I don't like speaking for him, but as his daughter, as someone who did talk to him about that part of him, well, from what I could tell, it was a fairly even, they were equally yoked, his anxiety and depression. And as I've mentioned here, I feel like he really could never get his meds just right. And they were tweaked a decent amount. And towards the end of his life, his depression really was difficult for him. And so it was hard as his daughter to watch him struggle with that. But I, on the other hand, was lucky enough, I guess, to escape that part around my mental health. I have some impulse control issues that have been a diagnosis, some auditory processing stuff. But, now more recently, or about 4 years ago, an ADHD diagnosis. But depression has only come around circumstantially for me. And also was a symptom when I was very eyeball deep in my autoimmune disorder when I was unmedicated, when I was untreated for it. That started around 2020. So I do understand what that's like. And I've had 3 different situations in my life where I have thought of, well, let me put it this way, where the option of ending my life felt like a reasonable one. Felt like, yeah, that would sure make all of these emotions go away. The first time it happened was in 2006 when my life completely fell apart. You guys have heard that story a lot. My first husband had an affair with our neighbor, got her pregnant. My whole life collapsed. What I thought was going to be my future, he and I were discussing starting a family at that time. So when he got his girlfriend pregnant, there were multiple layers to the devastation and humiliation and the trauma that I felt. And I went into a place of pretty deep darkness. And there were days where I thought, I just don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to wake up in the morning and keep having to put one foot in front of the other. It was too agonizing. I did not think I could bear another minute. And somehow I did. And then another time in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was under an immense amount of stress financially. And like all of us, we're dealing with the uncertainty and how scary the pandemic was for a long time. And also, not too far into 2020, my autoimmune symptoms started to pick up. And it was the culmination of those 3 things that caused a decent breakdown for me. And with the help of a therapist and with the help of getting treatment, finally, it took a long time, but getting treatment finally to help my autoimmune symptoms, that helped immensely. And then to be honest with you, January 2023, when I decided to leave my marriage, and it did end up being a mutual decision after that, I felt so much better. And so I think that was a contributor as well. But again, the part where I thought about taking my own life was it wasn't months and months on end where I was considering that. It was a fairly short amount of time. It was just a matter of a few days in 2020. So fast forward to 2023, when it was the summer, it was several months into my decision. I was still living in my marital home, and some circumstances happened, which I will not disclose for the privacy of my family. Some things happened that were a surprise that I did not see coming, and I had absolutely no control over them. And it was agonizing and terrifying, absolutely, unequivocally terrifying. I had multiple relationships in my life that were either ending or in deep, deep turmoil. Multiple relationships. I don't know if you could hear my dog sighing in the background. How appropriate, Astrid. Multiple relationships. I think 4 total. Yep, 4. And I did not have, or at least I didn't think I had, the tools to handle all of that. It was too much to bear. I felt like, okay, the other things I could do, or I could handle like 1 relationship falling apart, maybe 2, but 4 at the same time, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Absolutely not. And so at the time, I was leaning on a handful of friends to help me through this. I am forever grateful for them. And actually, all of them but one have been guests on this show. Rebecca Bache-Ching is a therapist that lives in California. Samantha Bennett, Amy Ehlers, and Nicole Whiting were immensely helpful. And my friend Rachel, who lives in Utah, she hasn't been on the show, and she was helpful to me too, because she's been where I was. And I was reaching out to them for help, and they were always answering the phone, always answering the call. And again, I'm incredibly grateful for them. And there were moments that stand out to me the most where I didn't reach out to them in those moments. And those were the moments that my thoughts were getting the best of me. And I hate to do this to you, but we do need to take an ad break. And when we get back, I will tell you what that looked like and how I made it to the other side. So we'll be right back. We all know home-cooked meals are so much better for you, but you don't always have time to pull it off. With HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, shopping, and most of the prep, it's easier than ever to get dinner on the table quick and painless. HelloFresh lets you easily customize your delivery from week to week because plans change and life gets busy. Tailor everything to your schedule by adjusting your delivery date or skip a week when you're not able to cook at home. HelloFresh for me has pushed me to step out of my comfort zone and try new flavors and meals I normally wouldn't think of. It's made cooking fun and easy again and not stressed or rushed at all. I turn on some music and relax while cooking. Plus, the meals are so delicious. My absolute favorite is the creamy Parmesan chicken with roasted carrots and yummy garlic mashed potatoes. With summer in the rearview mirror and busier days ahead, now's the perfect time to save time and money when it comes to your dinner routine. Skip the meal planning and grocery store lines and cut down on food waste with HelloFresh's convenient doorstep delivery and pre-measured ingredients. And remember, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. For free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/free MSN. One free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/free MSN. In those moments when money isn't moving as fast as your dreams are, Earnin provides the financial momentum you need to keep moving forward. Earnin is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. Just download the Earnin app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. You can use Earnin to pay for a girls' night out, last-minute gift for a loved one, or an unexpected vet bill. Make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about Earnin, I think about financial stability and security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in Noise under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Noise under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, location, daily max, and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. How would you describe your relationship with sleep? Do you struggle with falling asleep or staying asleep? Has the quality of your sleep been dragging down your life? Or maybe you've tried other sleep aids only to find they didn't do the trick? Here's the deal. Sleep is the cornerstone of overall health. When we get good sleep, both our minds and bodies operate at their peak. And quality sleep can also sharpen our focus, boost energy, and elevate our moods. So how do we reach that perfect dream state? 3 words. Beams Dream Powder. It's been an absolute game changer for me. I've struggled with insomnia off and on, and overall, falling asleep has always been a challenge for me. My listeners get a special discount on Beams Dream Powder. They're science-backed, healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. I've taken over-the-counter sleep aids for longer than I'd like to admit, and I feel so much better taking something with natural ingredients. Other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/noise and use code NOISE at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/noise and use code NOISE for up to 40% off. All right, we're back. Thank you for your patience. So what I was talking about those moments where, I didn't reach out to my friends, and it was sometimes during the day, I'd be just going about my business, and the silence would creep in where I wasn't working. I wasn't distracted by emails or laundry or life or whatever. And I would start really thinking about my future and what was going to happen. And it felt bleak. It felt incredibly dark and bleak. And P.S., before I continue, I'm sorry, I'm having an ADHD moment. I thought that I had talked about this on the podcast before. Maybe I have. I did a search in all of my show notes for this, and I didn't see it. So if I have already talked about this, and I have perimenopause, so if I forgot, I'm sorry you're hearing this for the second time. Anyway, back to the program. Those thoughts also happened the most at night. When, I was staying up late because I would be scrolling through my phone because it was the best distraction. It was the best way of numbing out that I could do. I don't drink anymore. There wasn't really any other vice that I had. I wish work worked for me, but it doesn't. And so for me, it's the internet. It's scrolling on social media just to completely be able to disengage from my thoughts. And there came a time during the night where, I had to put my phone down and turn off all the lights and blow out the candles and try to go to sleep. And what I started to realize very quickly in those days, those dark, dark, dark days, was that was the scariest time for me. And that's why it took so long to put my phone down at night. Because I tend to not be able to fall asleep very quickly. Sometimes I do. But for the most part, it'll take me a solid 20 or 30 minutes, which I know maybe some of you are listening are like, oh God, I wish I fell asleep that quickly. I think on average, I read a statistic, it's supposed to be about 7 minutes that it takes us to fall asleep. But when you are in the depths of despair and you are in a depression and you see no way out of your agony, 20 to 30 minutes of complete silence, of being alone with your thoughts, feels like a fucking torturous eternity. I could barely bear it. And yes, I was taking sleep aid. I had to. Not anything prescriptive, but just over the counter stuff. So I would sit there with my thoughts and think, what am I going to do going forward? How am I going to move forward? How am I going to repair these relationships? What if they don't ever get repaired? What if they get worse? What if? And this is what I said in my Instagram reel. Normally, I have access to optimism. I have access to hope. I have access to resilience. And not to mention, this is something that I have worked on. I think I am naturally optimistic. That is something I think I was just born with. But the resilience and the hope, that is something I have worked on. Mostly the resilience. Having tools and strategies to be able to combat my negative thoughts, to be able to manage the runaway thoughts of, this is never going to get better. What if it gets worse? I did a whole audio program with Sounds True on negative self-talk, which is great, by the way, if you haven't checked it out. It's really good. And 98% of the time, the tools that I have in my toolbox for that work. They work. And I'm very proud of that. And then there are the moments, like the circumstances that I was in the summer of 2023, where they don't work. They just don't. And I felt like the optimism and the hope and the resilience that I once had, I didn't have access to them. I felt like they had sort of slipped through my fingers and I couldn't, like sand, and I couldn't grab onto them. Maybe like the tiniest bit of granules, but it wasn't enough. It felt like nothing at all that I had access to. The only support that I had were my friends. And so in the moments that I wasn't reaching out to them, and I imagine this is how it is for people that don't reach out at all, the thoughts can tend to win. They can tend to overtake you and you start believing them and they become your truth. And one of those truths for me was that ending my life would make all of this go away. And I wouldn't have to deal with it at all. And that was attractive. And also a little scary because there was still a small part of me that saw that for what it was, and I was a little scared. But mostly I was more attracted to what it might bring me to get some fucking relief from the agony that I was in, the deep, deep sorrow and pain that I was feeling. And so one night in particular, I was laying there thinking, and this is farther than I had gone the other two times that I mentioned when I thought about ending my life. The other two times it was just a thought that came in. Oh, that's an option. Like I could do that. And then it would kind of go away and not kind of like it did. It went away. And I also ended up telling people about it and, got the help that I needed to be able to make my way out of that place. But this time was a little bit different. And I was laying there one night and I put my phone down and, put it on Do Not Disturb and turned all the lights off and was laying there in bed, was laying on my side because I'm a side sleeper. And I was with my eyes wide open in the dark and thinking, well, I could do it. And if I do, I don't think I could leave this earth without telling particular people what they have meant to me. And that was important to me. Like I wanted to express my immense love and gratitude for certain people that have been in my life. So I started to make a mental list of these people. And, it's like the obvious ones, family members, children. And I got to about 6 people. And those 6 people were people that were the most incredibly important to me. And I knew my list was not done. Like I wasn't going to stop with just 6. Because then I thought, well, if I only write letters to those people, then, so-and-so is going to feel left out. I'm like, why didn't I get a letter? Did she not have anything to say to me? And I didn't want them living with that. And then I started thinking like, God, I don't want my kids to be labeled as like the kid whose mom killed herself. That I didn't want to do that either. And then I thought like, oh God, I'm going to need to write either detailed letters or make videos for my kids, telling them the lessons that I want them to have in their life as they grow up. It's like, sorry, I couldn't be here to teach you these things, but I wanted to make sure that you know X, Y, and Z. Here's the advice I want to give you to live your best life. And so I started thinking about all those tasks. And then my next thought was, that feels so fucking difficult. Like, I guess I just won't kill myself. And it didn't take long, maybe a few days after that. And I was telling one of my friends about it and that I thought that was kind of funny. Like, I didn't take my own life because the thought of all the work involved in it felt like too much. And I thought to myself, like, if that isn't just like a mom thing, I don't know what is. And I really, really hesitated to tell you that part of the story because I don't by any means want to make light of something that is not a laughing matter at all. It's not. And I know that there's maybe some of you listening who have lost someone to suicide and take what I'm telling you as offensive. And please know that I'm sorry. I hope that nobody takes it that way. And at the same time, this is my story and those were my thoughts. And for me, on the other side, bringing some levity to the situation has helped me heal immensely. Having a sense of humor, bringing levity can be a part of many people's healing process. And I mean, that's what I do all the time here. Like I try to bring a sense of humor to some pretty big topics. I do think we can tend to go too far. I have done it many times and make jokes about our trauma and things like that. But I do think that if you are doing both, if you're doing the work and you're also able to have a sense of humor about it, I think you're okay. I really think you're okay. And also being mindful of other people's feelings. So that being said, yeah, I felt like it was too much work. I was not in the mood for more work. I was just not. And so I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I guess I have to face it. And so my hope is this, by telling you this story, my hope is that you can hear this and understand that mental health, it doesn't discriminate. We've heard that so many times. Suicide doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what kind of personality you have, how many friends you have, how much money you have, what you do for a living, how gregarious, vivacious, and extroverted you are online and in front of the camera. It doesn't matter. The human experience and human emotions affect everyone. And I'm not an expert on suicide by any stretch, and I can only tell you my experience, but I do know that reaching out for help helps. It can work. And I didn't have to call any kind of suicide hotline. I was lucky enough to have people in my life that I could lean on who understood the gravity of it and could help me. And you know, whether you have that or not, suicide prevention hotline, it can be enormously helpful. If you call or text 988, at least here in the United States, that is a call center or text, and you will get a hold of somebody on the other end who will hear what you're going through. So my hope is that you realize that your story matters and that you realize that your life matters. Your life matters. And I deeply understand that acute place of darkness. We hear so much sort of, you know, stories of redemption and or even like rags to riches stories. And I was in this really hard place and now I'm at. And I have told that a lot. And you know, sometimes we just don't have time to tell the nuances of it. But I think that we don't talk enough about those nights of being alone with your thoughts and the trudgery that it feels like to get through every second of the day, where even just surviving a minute feels like absolute agony. One of the things I had my friends remind me, and I articulated this to them, and I'm like, I need you to keep reminding me that this is temporary, because I don't see that. My vision, my thinking has become such in a tunnel that my mind is starting to convince me that there's no way out and this is going to be forever. And this is how my life is now. This is how my mind is now. I need you to keep telling me that it's not going to be like this. And here I am over a year later, and my life is in an enormously different place. So with that, thank you for listening. Remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I would be so incredibly grateful if you haven't done so already, if you could leave a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Super easy if you already listen to your shows over there. But if you don't, or maybe you have the app on your phone, but you listen to the show on a different app, if you could leave a review for this show, it matters so much. I wish I could express how much it matters. I also wish that it didn't matter so much, but alas, it does. So if you haven't already, please go review and rate the show. It would mean so much to me. And thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.